that are infrequently under 10 syllables long. It seems like he's got the leading vocabularies. He does Kingsley double cross-sticks in no time at all. So they've always held this vast kind of admiration for him, kind of held him in awe, and never really until 3-4 years ago did I believe he could really be wrong on anything. He always seemed to know so much more about everything than I, and it was only until recently, that I discovered he was something like the characters that Socrates interviewed. The poet who thought he knew everything, and the artisan who thought he knew everything, but in fact, in the realm of politics or in sociology or economics or issues I consider more important, his opinion just wasn't worth all that much. It was relatively uninformed. And this kind of shook me up to find that my father wasn't all I'd cracked him up to be. And, you know, as I say, I took off from there. I began to challenge absolutely everything he'd fed me. We've had some violent arguments in the past where his liberal facade breaks down and he calls Negroes niggers, which surprised me and pretty much told us where we stand. And I think, if anything, my awe that I held for my father inhibited any kind of intellectual growth in a radical direction that I might have undergone any earlier, simply because I didn't challenge soon enough. And that combined, my family life combined with the area I grew up in, the high school that I went to, which told you that you were being groomed to fit into the elite and that was a good thing and not a bad thing. When this is all combined, I came out of high school as an eager physics major, ready to jump into Stanford with its terrific physics department, and took a advanced freshman physics seminar from Professor Shipp, who's leader in the field of quantum mechanics, and that I was going to jump into some major university when I graduated and do outstanding work and make a name for myself, blah, blah, blah. And that it was not until last year that I started calling all this into question and changed my major to political science. Started reading some different things. But that, you know, the upper middle class background that I came from, with, you know, the intellectual but the liberal intellectual background that I came from, combined to delay a radical consciousness arising in me till a good deal later than I would have liked, looking back on it now.
I think your movement, while it has some good ideas, is way off base. And I'm frank to tell you this. However, I think that if you want to get more freshmen interested, that a more publicity at the beginning of the year and a big party for freshmen or something, to gather more support among freshmen, to increase your movement, you know, tell them and be quite frank with them. I know that I was most impressed when he came over to our dorm. We just had a bunch of fellows get together. And this helped SDS, because it makes more communication, like direct communication to the freshmen. And it makes it a lot more plausible, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I think that's what things like we're doing tonight. You know, it is an attempt in this field, and the criticisms of the meetings are, I think, very correct, and that we're trying to do away with it. It's becoming sort of a ritual. It's seen by the fact that we're here tonight rather than in Branner Hall.
I really think that we should get right down to the old freshman girls level, which is namely, what is there that needs a confrontation? What is the wrong with what's going on right now? Show us, you know, I've just now begun to find out that I really do think things are wrong, but if I read Susie or Heather or most of the girls in my dorm life, you know, there isn't that much that's going wrong, and I think that sometimes SDS makes it seem like everything is going wrong, and you know, what exactly is it that you can't stand?
It's really a long projected thing on Stanford, because Stanford is more free than, if you look at sort of the educational hierarchy in the Bay Area, Stanford's the most free.
I just, you know, how you guys were all centering on that Pitzer made the decision. Well, you know, and that Pitzer's really no better than anyone else, and he shouldn't be able to make the decision.
Mm-hmm. By going there, we're raising questions about his legitimacy, the legitimacy of the office itself, of the presidency existing, questions about imperialism. You know, people don't really want to ask themselves these questions until you force it on them. That's really sad, but you know, that's the kind of thing we've been talking about all night. We talked about why the kids in the dorms aren't asking these questions, you know, why they don't come to see the trustees when they are there. And I'd be pretty willing to bet that if we, you know, if we, at the day after we had even a 4-hour sit-in in his office, that a pitcher went and talked in somebody's dorm, that you wouldn't have 8 people, you'd have a goddamn overflow.
Why don't you give the guy a chance that maybe there's, you know, there is some room for communication. He hasn't shut you off completely. Why shut him off completely?
I think the last thing we want to do is shut him off, because I'm pretty confident we can make mincemeat out of him. He's just a fool. He laughs at him. He laughs at the wrong times. He's insecure.
You're going to give him any kind of a chance at all.
Well, he's known about our demand since October.
He hasn't been in office yet.
But again, but haven't you said that it isn't just one man, it's a system, and you can't just expect one man to change everything?
Oh, no, I don't.
You see, you're not trying to reach Pitzer himself, but you're trying, through giving these demands or suggestions to Pitzer, you're trying to reach other people. Then hopefully the end object is that we'll all see that we have to act together to get those things. And that only when we really begin to act and become a new kind of thing in that system, you know, really alter that system because we're active, that then you can get these things.
Isn't there any way without violating somebody else's rights?
Pitzer is using his rights, you know, saying that he has rights. He used his rights to deny Robert Oppenheimer security clearance. He's using his rights now on the RAND Corporation. He's using his rights there to develop counterinsurgency measures to deny the people in Thailand their right to determine their own lives.
As you look at it.
It's a question of whose interests do you support? Because there is a conflict. I mean, I have people that I consider my enemy. David Rockefeller is my enemy. Kenneth Pitzer is my enemy. They're enemies. Their interests are in conflict to mine. There isn't. We don't have a smooth society. We have a society that's totally ripped with people with contradictory interests.
And therefore you have the right to impose upon anything that he might, upon his right, just because...
Well, what does that mean? So then if I don't do it, then he'll impose his will on everybody else. I'm saying that there's
If I
a
don't
conflict.
do it to him, then look, he's going to do it to me.
What?
But he is doing it.
He's doing it. And it's not that he's doing it just, you know, to an individual. See, you're still working on that assumption that he, you know, that there's this sort of way that all the rights work out.
He has the right to go where he wants to go, when he wants to go, as long as...
But what does that do? You know, if somebody goes into a Dow recruiting office, you know, let's get...
right! You have no right to say that it's
let's
not
not, I don't want
okay.
to, will you let me finish,
Yeah,
please?
I guess
He
so.
goes in that Dow recruiting office, and he gets his job. Okay? You know,
Okay.
let's not isolate this. These things are
Okay.
connected. He gets
Okay.
his job, and he goes and works in his goddamn chemical factory, and he makes some napalm, and he bombs somebody with it. And if he hadn't gone in that office, if there hadn't been any office for him to go into, then he wouldn't have made that napalm.
But it's his decision.
Oh, it's his decision? What about the Vietnamese?
What about the people that are getting
You know, what about that's their decision.
Okay.
Then, in fact, it is their decision to go and kill the American soldiers. Fine. So we've gotten this place where we said, well, it's the Americans' decision to go kill the Vietnamese, and it's the Vietnamese decision to go kill the Americans. So what you're doing is you're imposing, you know, taking your argument, which is trying to get out of a value judgment, you're imposing your will on me because I have a right, because of my beliefs, to go and stop that bastard from going in there and working for Dow, because that's contradictory to what I want in life. So you're imposing on me. You're doing the same goddamn thing.
Please distributed, you know, the next class break at noontime.
Oh shit, these are too many.
Oh shit, we got rid of more than that just now.
Here, Eric, take one.
Here, you got one. Hey.
Grab a leaflet. Open meeting of the Board of Trustees. Like a leaflet? Good. Open meeting of the Board of Trustees, everyone's invited.
Oh boy, you're just getting outstripped.
People just like your side better, it's the right side. That's good. You're invited to the Board of Trustees meeting. Open meeting.
Where are you from?
Brazil.
Brazil? You must be opposed to imperialism.
Yeah.
Anybody from Brazil? Do you want Kubitschek back in?
Yes.
Yes? Read the demands. They're in your interest. And everybody's. Okay. Meeting today.
The main thing is just trying to
of stimulate some activity, some excitement, you know, and secondarily convince the trustees that we're serious and maybe, you know, force them to make a mistake or something.
Really sort of, you know, psychological guerrilla tactics.
David, here, throw in your verbal vote.
I think we ought to go in. Before